Hello, hi everyone. This is Lokesh from Soul Freedom Show, and we have a very special guest today, my dear friend Peter Khoury. He runs a company called Magnetic Speaking, and I've taken some of his workshops. And hi, Peter, how are you doing?
Hi, good location. This feels like a deja vu because we did this like 6 years ago, and
I know. Yeah, you were the first person I interviewed on the show.
woo!
Yeah, I know. It is a deja vu.
Yeah,
And
I was looking at that video. I was telling you earlier, just like
yeah,
I looked so young. It's amazing what 6 years would do.
I know, long time. We have a lot to catch up. So why don't you tell us how it's been last few years, last few weeks? We can get to the weeks part because of the whole virus thing. But last few years, how have you matured, like as a person and as a company?
Yeah, so we've grown tremendously since we did the last interview as a company, and
Right,
also I've grown as a person,
right,
and we grew, we changed location, we added a street level address in San Francisco, we got more trainers, and I got to a point where I wasn't doing a lot of trainings myself because I had a lot of trainers doing the trainings,
right,
and we were growing at 40% a year.
right.
And to be honest, I knew that something was going to happen. Like there was going to be a recession, and I started preparing like a year ago. However, I was not prepared for a recession and a
Yeah,
COVID-19 situation, which
right.
forced us to lock down.
Yeah,
And luckily, like a year ago, I started with one of our trainers developing a virtual class.
yeah,
It's funny, not a lot of people wanted to do public speaking virtually at the time. We had very small niche
yeah,
of people who wanted to do it. And however, we stuck to it. We kept refining the program. And
right.
when this hit run, we just transferred everything that we do. We were running 6 to 8 full day trainings a month
Yeah,
at our facility, 5 classes a week, coaching, everything had to stop, everything. And
yeah,
then we started shifting towards a virtual space.
right.
So that's where we are right now. We're the same company. Luckily, we didn't have to lay off anybody. We still have all the trainers, but we just shifted to online. And I'll be honest, it's not like one-to-one shift, like
Yeah,
boom, everything
right.
migrated over. It was a
Yeah.
transition. The first 2 weeks, nothing.
Mm,
And then it started ramping up. Now we have five weekly classes
uh,
virtually and one full full day, but we divided over 3 weeks, so 2 hours a week program called
right.
Virtual Mastery. And we're excited because they're all booked.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah. So how have people started responding differently? Because I know public speaking in general in front of people can be stressful. So what are the pros and cons you see of shifting from teaching in person versus virtually?
Like some like before this happened, people
Yeah.
were not open-minded to
Right.
virtual training. They thought in-person training is better, and I agree, in some cases it's better to
Yeah.
do a live training
Right.
where maybe you need help with your body language and how you're sitting and how you take the stage. How do you physically interact with an audience? So
Yeah.
that's I agree, you need a live training for that.
Right.
However, I think you can do a lot more depth with
Right.
content, with structure,
Yeah.
with confidence,
Right.
with certainty training uh, online. Because imagine, like, we can do this training, I can give you feedback and we're recording, and
Yeah.
then you can experiment with things and we're recording and I give you feedback, and then you go home and you re-listen to it and you see yourself and you know exactly what I was talking about.
Right. Right.
It's giving you the feedback. So that's an advantage for an
Yeah.
online virtual environment. So
Right.
I would say like it's not either or. I think both is going to
Mm,
be what's required for the future.
right.
However, now this is the time which I'm grateful for, and the silver
Yeah.
lining in all of this is it's forcing people to try things online, and they're all discovering that it's actually a good thing.
Right, right. And why don't you also tell us a little bit about your company, when you started, and how kind of it's different from, there's so many people teaching what you're doing, how you're different, and how you started.
Yeah, I used to be, 15 years ago, I used to be a pharmaceutical engineer.
Mm.
And I was good at my job. I did not like it very much. I didn't see a future. And I felt at a certain point that if I don't improve my communication skills, I'm going to be locked in that engineering job forever.
Right.
And I started looking into communication training. And I remember first time attending a Toastmaster group because they told me public speaking improves your communication.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, that makes sense. So I go to Toastmasters and I had to give a speech about myself. It's called
Yeah.
the icebreaker, if you've been to
Right. Yeah.
Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had like 3 pages written about myself. And I
Yeah.
go there and I'm standing up and I open my mouth, and out of the 3 pages, something like this comes out. Hi, my name is Peter. I hate my job. Thank you. And I ran out. And I knew I was in trouble when I did that. I knew, oh my
Yeah.
God, this has to improve. So I
Yeah.
took acting classes, improv, I did stand-up comedy, and I kept
Yeah.
building my skills up.
Right.
And then the doors started to open, and
Okay.
I transitioned from being an engineer to a trainer.
Right.
And I worked for a while as a trainer doing negotiation skills training, conflict management training. And after doing it for a few years,
Mm-hmm.
I I kept getting the question, and I kept getting questions about how did I transform from being an engineer to a national speaker, instead
Right.
of questions, like, oh, how can I improve my negotiation skills? And I thought, okay, maybe people need help with that. So I
Right.
started magnetic speaking.
Yeah.
And it was very well received, because I think for the first time that a previous introvert now teaches public speaking, where
Yeah.
always when you go to other public speaking training companies, usually it's the extrovert. Like,
Yeah.
I've been good all my life. Look at
Right.
me. And now
Right.
I can teach you. And you tell them, like, Lukesh, you go to that person and you go, I feel nervous when I speak. And that person will look you in the eyes and say, I know what you're talking about. He has no idea,
Yeah.
or she has no idea, right? Because they're extroverts, they're
Yeah.
comfortable all their life. So for me, I had to struggle,
Yeah.
and I had to build systems, and I had to use my engineering mindset to create my own programs. And then when we're teaching clients who are maybe introverts, analytical, smart people, they find it easy to adopt and easy to learn. And that's what makes us special. We're very systematic, and we cover the science
Mm-hmm.
of public speaking in a fun, interactive way. I know you've attended some of our courses early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it always like was like that modular,
Okay.
systematic, small, incremental learning where you get feedback and it's fun.
And what has changed, like, about the content of what you teach? What has changed over the years?
We just added more
More
programs.
programs.
Like
So,
in the beginning, initially we focused on delivery skills, like
right.
what do you do with your hands, how
Yeah.
to make eye contact, how to engage your audience. And
Right.
then over time, we started adding, we said, okay, there's another component to public speaking, and that's structure. So we
Yeah.
created a program called
Okay.
messaging blueprint.
Right.
And in that one, you learn how to structure an introduction, how to structure a body, how to structure a conclusion. And then we said, okay, after that, there's one component to public speaking, that's storytelling.
Right.
So we had business storytelling training.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, and we added the last and final component to public speaking, and that's impromptu, how to think on your feet. Because let's
Yeah.
say you know how to deliver a message, you know how to structure a message, you
Yeah.
know how to add stories to make it more engaging and interesting. If somebody asks you a weird question or from
Yeah.
left field, can you put it
Yeah.
all together? And that's
Right.
what
Right.
impromptu. So now that's our core offering, is a program, 1 day each. And now with the online environment, we do 3 weeks each for each of these segments.
3 weeks, as in What do you mean
It's
3 weeks?
a 3-week
Yeah,
program, and
I see.
we address one specific area. 3 weeks on delivery, two
Oh,
hours a week, 3 weeks on
oh, okay.
messaging, 3 weeks on storytelling, and 3 weeks on
I see.
product.
Got it. What about the corporate? Like, do you also work with the corporates?
Yeah, that's 50% of our business.
Okay.
Like 50% of our business are people, professionals like you. They just want to work on their public speaking skills so they can get
Right.
ahead
Yeah.
and get freedom and choices and their
Yeah.
job. So
Yeah.
they
Breaking up.
at Facebook, at Genentech,
Oh,
at
sorry. I think you were breaking up. Can you repeat what you just said?
sure. Where do I start?
Oh, you said just the whole thing about the corporate programs.
Yeah, for corporate programs, usually
Yeah.
managers, they come to us and they say, we want to improve the communication skills of our people.
Right.
So we go in and we do a program for them. Sometimes it's one of these programs where it's focused on structure, delivery,
Okay.
storytelling, or we do a customized option. And we've done trainings for companies like Genentech, Facebook, the 49ers,
Okay.
you name it in the Bay Area, we've done training for them.
Wow. That's exciting. And that's still like, is it still going on at this? Let's come to like right now, what's going on because of the lockdown and the virus thing. Like, how have things changed for you, and how are businesses and people like kind of responding to the whole situation?
Yeah. So all like clients that have been with us for a while and we have programs created for them, they continue with us and we do
Yeah.
things virtually.
Okay.
It's no big deal because we were ready for that. Now
Okay.
some companies are nervous
Right.
and and understandably so, and they go, oh, we want to hold off for a second, and that's understandable
Yeah.
until things open up.
Right.
I feel like right now is a great time for them honestly to do trainings,
Yeah.
because trainings improve the fundamental skills of the employees, of the professionals that work at these organizations. Also
Right.
trainings, because it's a group setting, we get people in as a group.
Together. Right.
It adds a social aspect, a team building aspect, because right
Mhm.
now one thing we hear from everybody is that they're lonely and
Yeah.
uh, they miss their
Isolate.
team,
Yeah.
isolated.
Right.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so yeah, we try to educate them,
Okay.
and hopefully these companies that decided to put a hold will change their mind.
Got it. Okay. That's good to know.
Mhm.
And what about you personally? Like, who have you been your like role models and things like that? That's one. And the other is like, as an entrepreneur, like what kind of guidelines or things that you have to share for people who want to like start their own business? So two questions.
Yeah, I feel like these times, these are bad economic times, right? And
Right.
I believe these are the best times to start a business,
Right.
because first you have the time. Like if
Yeah.
you're locked at home, you're like, okay, I have
Yeah.
nothing else to do, so let me work on building a business.
Yeah.
The second thing is resources become more available. Like in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
employment is usually hard. It's hard to find employees. But now maybe with this, there's probably, as a small business owner, you can find help
Yeah.
better and
Right.
grow. Also, opportunities to partner up with others.
Yeah.
Also, because of, especially with this one, because of the availability of technology like Zoom,
Yeah.
for example. You just get an account and all of a sudden you can start marketing your business.
Yeah.
You can launch marketing videos on YouTube. You can
Right.
use social media, and you have the time to do it. So I think
Right.
I think it's a good time. I
Right.
I feel like business owners need to become leaders. I think
Yeah.
that's the big one.
Right. Right.
Because if everybody is uncertain, including your employees, they're looking for
Yeah.
somebody to make them feel certain. And I feel like the business owner needs to step up and get ahead of this anxiety and be a role model, be a leader in this time. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. So I'm sure you're a role model to a lot of people as well, especially people who want to get on stage or talk to people. But who have you been your role models, or who are currently your role models?
I've always looked at my speaking personality as an engineering puzzle.
Hmm.
Like who I've always looked like, who do I want to be more like?
Okay. Right.
And right from the beginning, and this is a
Yeah.
technique I give my clients, I say, if you want to develop your speaking personality, find 5 or 10 people, preferably 5. It's better, it's easier, or
Yeah.
3, even
Right.
even even much better.
Okay.
Find 3 people, 5 people, 10 people that you admire as speakers,
Okay.
and then you put them on a piece of paper, like in circles, and you're in the middle.
Right.
And then you go, for each person you admire and you like, you write, what do you like about them? And the
Right.
more behavioral what you write down, the better,
Okay.
because it means you can copy it.
So
Like,
can
for
you?
example, one
Yeah,
of
I was
my
gonna
role
ask.
models is
Yeah.
Tony Robbins.
Right.
And if you ever see me do this, probably in the last interview, you probably saw me do this.
Yeah.
It's like, I learned it from Tony Robbins. That's certainty. So it puts me
Okay.
in a state
Okay.
of certainty.
Right.
Another one is Oprah Winfrey.
Hmm.
Oprah Winfrey is phenomenal at speaking to the camera. Like, for example, I look at the camera right now, it's a void.
Yeah.
When Oprah Winfrey looks at the camera, she sees her best friend. And when she talks to the camera, she's talking like it's her best friend. And
Right.
the people on the other side, they all feel like she's talking to them. So that's something I admire about Oprah.
I see.
T.
So
Harv
you.
Eker, energy and engagement on
Yeah.
stage. I love that.
How do you spell his name?
T. Harv, uh, T and Harv, Harv,
B. Okay.
Eker, Eker.
All right. I'm just asking for other people. I know all this stuff. For people who are listening, they may not.
That's right. That makes sense. I was wondering. I'm like, you don't know who that
Yeah,
is?
yeah. We talked about this. Yeah, I'm just saying because people may not know, and they may not know how to find this stuff.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
important. Like, don't follow role models that I give unless you like their attributes.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
see one obstacle a lot of times shows up is people usually choose somebody from like that looks like them or
Yeah.
from the same sexual orientation. It doesn't have to be. You
Yeah.
find anybody that has a behavior that you like, and then
Right.
you can model it.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. And what about some tips for, like we were talking about entrepreneurship earlier,
Mm-mm.
because there's a lot of risk involved, like, there's money, you need people,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
and especially if you're doing a job, if you want to do a side business. So do you have any tips, or do you even have any trainings or stuff like that where people can go online and search for this stuff?
I don't have any personal training, but I took a lot of trainings
Okay.
over the years. And I think risk management is a skill that you can
Right.
learn.
Okay.
And I've always been conscious of the risks. And I think it goes back to being an introvert, an analytical, and an
Yeah.
engineer. So I've always put that in the equations that I create.
Right.
So one thing, like I've been reading lately, is Nassim Taleb. Have you heard of him, Lukesh?
How do you
Like the
spell his
Black
last name?
Swan. I don't know, like
Talib,
Nassim.
Tullib. I
Yes.
think I've heard of the name, but I don't know much
Yeah, he
about it.
wrote a book called The Black Swan,
Okay, yeah, right.
Skin in the Game. So if you
Okay,
want to, I think as an entrepreneur, it's really good to read up on
okay,
risk and risk management,
okay.
because honestly, like I said in the beginning, I don't know if that was recorded
Yeah,
when we're talking about preparation.
yeah,
Like, you can never be prepared enough. I knew that as we were growing as a business, I knew that one day we're going to hit a recession or something,
yeah.
but I never calculated that we're going to be hit with 2 things,
Okay,
right?
right.
The
Yeah,
COVID-19 followed by recession, because the
okay,
COVID-19 caused the recession.
yeah,
And it's like, so for me, it's like adjustment to my future
okay.
models. And I go, okay, next time we need double the preparation.
I see. So you're saying there's always going to be risk, but you just have to balance it out and just go whatever the best you can at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If you're a professional and you want to start a business, maybe don't start full-time.
Yeah.
Or if you go full-time, don't leave your full-time job, maybe
Right.
make it part-time. So
Yeah.
that's how you mitigate risk.
Okay.
And save some money before you quit, right?
Yeah. Just the
And
common
always
sense.
watch the expenses. Exactly, common
Yeah.
sense, but it's hard
Yeah.
to do.
I know common
Because
sense
as
is not common anymore. Right?
that's right. I think it was never common.
Yeah. Now that we are laughing, why don't you give us tips about how people can use comedy, because both of us have taken like comedy classes, because people need to lighten up, especially in a group setting. Any tips you have for that?
Yeah, I believe like you can learn comedy
Right.
the same way you can learn public speaking, the same way you can learn math, the same way you can learn physics.
Right.
There is a basic structure. It's not that complicated. It's just like you just have to put yourself out there and
Yeah.
learn the structure, and then find a way to blend that structure with your personality. And
Okay.
that's when it's authentic humor. I know people always tell me like, you're funny, can you teach a
Yeah.
class? I'm like, that's hard. I took stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That's how I learned a little bit.
Right.
But that's just to get you started. And then over time, you just learn to relax, and you learn the structure of humor.
Yeah.
And you become better at it. And I think that's the way to
Okay.
go.
And
And
how do you like kind of balance or mix up a business and comedy? Because sometimes, like for example, when I've done stand-up comedy, but then when I tell people who I'm working with, they're like, "Oh, why don't you just try that full time?" Like I don't want to do it full time, but there's always a balance. You can do multiple things, and you can use humor at work, and things like that. So how do people use like humor in a work setting or in a professional setting?
yeah, like anything else, you practice humor in a
Right.
specific way, and you practice it enough, it rubs on you. And then at work, you just be your natural self, and you'll
Right. Right.
find that humor will start leaking out
Okay.
a little bit. And then people will laugh. That's going to give you a positive reinforcement loop. And then your
Okay.
body goes, wow, people like this. So I better
Okay.
do more of that. And then you start naturally doing more of that.
Okay.
And I think that's the trick. Most people go take stand-up comedy and they learn a joke, and then
Yeah.
they go to a meeting and they force it.
Yeah. Right.
And then that's how they get burned. That's
Yeah.
how they crash and burn
Yeah.
and look inauthentic.
Right.
And I'm like you, Lukesh. I'm interested in many, many things, and I'm not ashamed of admitting it.
Right.
And I'm constantly like, every few months, I'm into something new.
Right.
And I go enough in that subject until I'm satisfied,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just let it go. And I notice that it starts to appear in my normal life. Like lately, for the past 3 months, I've been obsessed with finance.
Okay.
Obsessed, taking courses, reading, doing homework, which when I was in school, I wasn't doing homework. Now I'm like doing, like, I'm looking at a college textbook and I'm doing the homework at the end of the chapter.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
in a while, it's going to go away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I just have the knowledge. Same thing with chess. I got obsessed for a year.
Yeah.
Like I would play every day. I hired a coach. I would review my games. And my
Yeah.
wife goes like, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's just one of my new obsessions."
I know. Talking about obsessions, we also talked about like spirituality. Many times you've talked about it, but that's kind of a rabbit hole. Once you get into it, it's hard to get out. But how have you been keeping up with or how has spirituality helped you in your life? Maybe you can touch upon that.
That's a tough subject. Like you said, it's a rabbit hole.
Right.
And sometimes it's a rabbit hole that goes around and
Yeah. Yeah.
around and around. You keep coming back to the same things,
Yeah.
because it's a hard subject to identify
Yeah. Yeah.
and wrap your head around it. So,
Right.
I started out, that's how we
Connected.
connected.
Yeah.
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 I just said, "Oh, do you read Osho?" And then you said, "Osho, I love Osho." At the
Yeah.
time you loved Osho. And I was like, on your journey, you
Yeah.
probably went
Exactly.
through Osho, same thing. I
Yeah.
was going through Osho, and that's how we connected. And
Right.
then you were doing different things. I was doing different things. And every once in a while we do the same things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, lately I've been keeping it simple. I've been just meditating. I've
Uh,
been trying to expand my mind. Just
right.
like whenever I think of a situation, I try to think of multiple points of view. And it's a hard
Right.
thing to do
Yeah.
because I have a certain point of view, and I believe that this point of view came from conditioning,
Yeah.
from growing up, from patterns I picked up from my parents and people in the community and where I grew up.
Right.
So when you think about a situation, you think in the moment you're having your own thoughts, but in truth, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's everything you've inherited
Yeah.
pouring in, and who knows what's your thought and what's your not thought, what are not your
Not the
thoughts.
thought.
So what I've been doing lately is just examining how I think
Right.
about a
Okay.
subject. I would take like any topic, like the COVID-19,
Yeah.
and I would look at it from multiple perspectives. What does it mean? Is it
Right.
good? Is it bad? What is it going to do? How is it going to do it?
Yeah.
What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What's my opinion about it?
Yeah.
And I try to force myself to have different opinions.
Right.
And it's funny, in one of our trainings, we do debates,
Okay.
and we have people come in and do debates.
Uh,
And usually it's an enlightening experience, especially when you have to debate a point you don't believe in.
right.
And I find that now I've been applying that to my life. Like I debate with myself, and that
Right.
gives me, I feel like, a more holistic understanding of things. And to me, at this point in my life, that's to me is spirituality.
Ritual. Right. Right. And
Yeah.
since you were talking about we inherit a lot of stuff from other people, so that brings me to the topic of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, because I know you've done some research and you use those techniques in your training. So
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
why don't you tell people a little bit about what NLP is and how they can use it in their lives?
Yeah. So right now, if you're talking to a programmer, when you
Right.
when you say NLP, they might think natural language programming,
Right. Right.
right?
That's different. Yeah, that's
Yeah, because sometimes people look at my bio and they go certified NLP, and they go, "Wow, you're certified in natural language processing." No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's NLP is neuro-linguistic programming,
Right.
and it's a model of the world. It doesn't mean it's true, but it's one
Right.
way to look at how we people operate, and
Right.
it looks at our language structures and how they affect our lives.
Right.
And if you understand the language structures you use, you can change old habits. You can change your public speaking anxiety into maybe excitement. Just a small shift in the language can go a long way. You can heal past traumas. You can do a lot of things. You can create a compelling future, a vision.
Okay.
Like it's a tool that you use to
Okay.
restructure your thought process. And
Okay.
I found it useful in the beginning of my career because as an engineer going into this arena of training,
Yeah.
I wanted something to latch on, something tangible, something like a structure. And NLP was that thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, instead of jumping into the ocean, I felt like, okay, there is some structure here that I can
Right.
learn and navigate this new environment. And I
Okay.
feel like if you're transferring from another field to training, you
Right.
have to have something like that to help you with the transition.
Got it. Got it.
Mhm.
Wow. That's good to know. Yeah. And I'm sure you use those in your training programs. That's kind of part of that.
100%, 100% in the background. Like one of our goals when people take our trainings is to, at the end of the training, like even a small class, is to change the way they think, they feel, and they do.
Okay.
And that comes from NLP. Like we
Okay.
want them to think, wow, I can do this.
Right.
Then we want them to feel hopeful, like
Right.
this can happen to them. I'll tell you a story. In early on, like when we first met me, I was
Yeah.
running classes and
Yeah.
I didn't know where it was heading.
Right.
And one time I get a professional, he comes to the class and he's wearing a trench coat. This is in the summer. He's wearing a trench coat and I'm like thinking, well, does he have a gun in there? What is he trying to do?
Yeah.
And he participated in the class, and at the end of the class he approached me and he said, sorry, I was wearing a trench coat, but because I'm so anxious, I was shivering.
Oh, cold.
I
Okay.
was shivering.
Yeah.
And he said, this is the first time that I feel hopeful that I can improve my comfort level speaking to groups
Wow.
after my class. And that's, to me, like, was everything. That
Yeah.
was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make people hopeful. So I've integrated that part of the program. I want them to feel hopeful.
Okay.
And I build structures in the trainings to make them feel hopeful at the end, because without that hope, then they're not going to invest the time
Yeah.
and energy to grow and develop.
Okay. Got it. Okay, that's good. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's really helpful. I want to just, we're getting near the end. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the different programs? And let's say I'm a beginner, or I'm a professional, or I'm an entrepreneur. Like, what are the different categories of trainings and how people can get to them?
The most important thing is to think of public speaking as a skill that you can develop, and then break that into sub skills. And
Mhm.
fortunately, there's
Yeah,
4 sub skills that you need to
right.
work on. And first, like, if you're listening to this, just as I'm going through the skills, the 4 sub skills, just analyze, like, which one do you need the most. So the
Yeah,
first skill is delivery skills,
right,
like what to do with your hands, how do you look at the camera if this is a virtual environment, how do you engage the audience, what kind of
right.
questions do you ask them, how to use the space for anchoring, like one concept here, one concept here. Remember, I said skills and I started here. That's what skill number 1.
Yeah,
Notice where my hands would go for skill number 2. They're going to be right here, right? So
right.
that's called anchoring. That's delivery skills. Like, is
Okay,
this what you need? Do you need delivery skills?
okay.
Under delivery skills, also confidence and comfort,
All right.
because how you take the stage will affect how your body interprets the energy. Like,
Right.
if you go like this, your body thinks it's anxious and it's going to
Yeah,
amplify that. But if you
yeah.
go like this, it
Right,
thinks you're excited and
right,
it's going to amplify that.
right,
So
right.
that's where skills, the delivery skills, come
Delivery.
from.
Okay.
Yeah. So think in your mind, is this what you want to work on? If so, there is a full
So
program for that.
delivery is like a presentation, right? It's the same thing.
Yes, like, because a presentation is sometimes confused with slides. Remove the
Okay.
slides, and
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
what do you do with your body language, with your tone of voice,
Okay,
your
okay.
eye contact, and
Okay,
that's
that
what delivery
so
is. Yeah,
that's you have a specific training for that.
yeah. And
Okay.
then if that's what you need, maybe focus on the second thing. The second thing is messaging.
Okay.
How do you construct a powerful message, a concise message? Do you shoot from the hip every time somebody asks you a question, or do you have like a mental framework to organize your thoughts?
Right.
When you have a presentation coming up, do you know how to organize it in a good narrative from A to Z?
Right.
If you stress out about creating a presentation because you don't know where to start, how to end, how to make it interesting,
Yeah.
then that would be the training for you.
I see.
Then third is storytelling.
Mhm.
If you're like me, when I was an engineer, I thought, I'm not a storyteller. I'm like, give me a spreadsheet. I can
Yeah.
analyze it left and right, up and down. No big deal. But
Right.
story, no way.
Yeah.
No way. However, there is structure for stories. And in business, there are 7 stories that as a professional and as a leader, you need to know.
Right.
So we teach you the structure of those stories. And in the training, you learn, you create them. So you have them in your back pocket, so you can use in your next presentations, in
Right.
your job interview, anything you need.
Okay.
And it's specifically for business. And finally, impromptu. Do you
Mhm.
clam up when somebody puts you on the spot, when somebody challenges your ideas,
Right.
when somebody asks you a question
Yeah.
in a meeting,
Yeah.
when you're sitting on your laptop at work and they tell you, can you join us in the executive committee and give us an update on project X? Like, does
Yeah.
that make you feel nervous? If yes, then you need to work
Okay.
a little bit on
All right.
impromptu speaking. And I find that no matter what your skill level is, if you start thinking about public speaking that way,
Right.
then it's going to make your life easier, and it's going to help you master it better because you know which levers you need to pull.
Got it. Wow. Thanks. Yeah, that's helpful. And where can people sign up for these trainings?
They should go to magneticspeaking.com. Magneticspeaking.com.
Okay. Now, are you also on social media or mostly
Yeah,
on?
we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. YouTube.
Okay.
We're using like this time because it's
Yeah.
slower time for us.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of transition from live trainings to virtual. So we're
Right.
using this time to build our social media presence. If you look at our YouTube, we're putting 1 to 2 videos a week. We're doing
Okay.
1 to 2 articles on our blog. We're posting on Instagram or LinkedIn. And it's been great. It's been great because as a trainer, I like I like to share. I
Yeah.
like to teach.
Yeah.
And when we're in lockdown, I feel stifled if I don't share on social media. So you'll see a lot
Okay.
of our work.
Great.
Me
Great.
and the trainers.
And the trainers. And how many trainers do you have now?
Right now we have 5.
5. Great. Okay. Thanks, Peter. It was great talking to you. Anything else you want to add before we end?
I would say if you're into this and if you're into public speaking, it means you want to be a leader. And this is a great time to be a leader and an example. And if people around you are anxious and nervous, have a message to center them, to calm them, because we will get out of this and we will be fine. Just give it time.
Okay. Great. That's a beautiful message. Thank you, Peter. It was great talking to you. Hopefully, we'll catch up again soon. And yeah, have a nice day.
Same.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.